Here we have Ethereum versus the dollar. We'll do a general overview on this one at the request of Mr. Jack Asseman. And in this case, what do we see on the weekly? We do see the weekly is actually, did it close below last week's low? It did close below last week's low. So I'm gonna look at this as a local high, and I would be looking for a general pullback, likely a little bit further to the downside before the next meaningful bounce in this case. In this case, we do see on the daily right here, a bit of a short-term range is starting to evolve and probably does align with the short-term bounce. Where would I call a bear trap and no further continuation to the downside and very likely big moves to the upside? And when I say big moves, I mean targets towards 3,800 to probably more like 4,000 bucks. That would be with the daily closure, very specifically above 3,450. And until that happens, I do look at short-term bounces as likely to lead towards continuation to the downside. And we actually, no, we do not have another drive of hidden bearish evidence right there, but on the full hour, I am looking at the base of this sort of, let me see, do I have a chart in here? I do, but not much. But I am looking at a base somewhere around the 200 simple. So perhaps another drive to the downside and then very likely a bounce off this region right here. Bounces can come bounce can come up anywhere towards 3,200 to 3,250 or so. Doesn't really do anything, obviously. Again, I do not call a bear trap until at minimum this thing's trading back above. I could actually argue 3,400 on a daily closing basis, not 3,450, but at least 3,400 in this case. Until then, short-term bounces likely lead towards more continuation to the downside, mostly based off of Bitcoin right here, because I think Bitcoin's an easier chart. To be fair on Ethereum, if we go to a 5-day and a weekly, it actually did not close below any major moving averages. So, if there's any indication that this market might actually put in a bear trap right here, I think Ethereum's more on that side. We can go line this up with stochastic momentum as well, and then we'll bring this one full circle. But 5-day stochastic momentum will turn down below 3,000. So for right now, it still remains up. Weekly is obviously gonna be up as well, above 2,400. So this is actually not super concerning just yet. 2 days obviously down below 35, and daily is nosediving below about 33, 35 or so. So probably still another day or two of correction or corrective price action here. If we go down to the 4-hour time frame, we do see it actually nosediving below about 32.50. 6-hour, which I quite like recently as well, is freshly crossing down below 32.50 as well. So that number shown up a couple times. 3-hour is also pivoted below about 32.80, and hourly is going to be doing what? It's going to be flippy floppy at about 31.80 as well. So, short term, what does that align with? Maybe one more drive to the downside for a slightly lower low, and then very likely does start to play out those divergences for a bounce, which bounce can come up very easily to like 32.50 or so. But yeah, until we get resolution above about 3,400 at minimum, I do refrain from calling this one a bear trap. I do think that there is a setup here, obviously, and perhaps. Do we have hidden bullish evidence present on a daily? It would if it confirms a local low here, but that's not happening until you're back above about 33.50 and basically 3,400. So I still kind of remain with those pivots in this case until those areas are reclaimed. I do expect that short-term bounces likely lead towards one more drive to the downside. And then it's probably just going to be easy to look at Bitcoin for general direction. So hopefully that was helpful for Ethereum, and there you go, sir.